Hey everybody, and welcome to the Filmmaking and Fandom Station. I'm a film editor here, and I'm making this video because I'm very excited, but yet this excitement has to do with something very important in the filmmaking community, which I hope to explain in this video. I posted on Twitter a couple of days ago an image from the Bond 25 set in Norway, which featured an IMAX 70mm film camera, which I was so excited. If you know who I am and how much IMAX has inspired me in my filmmaking endeavors, IMAX means so much to me, and so when I hear news of any movie shooting in the IMAX 70mm film format, I am over the moon, and I'm so excited that it's joining one of my favorite franchises of all time, James Bond 007. But this excitement, like I said, so first of all, huge shout out to IndieWire and writer Bill Desowitz, who took my post and shared it with the world, explaining his excitement for the format and why it's important that it joins the James Bond franchise. So huge shout out to him. Go follow him on Twitter on Bill Desowitz, and make sure to read the article. I have pinned it on Twitter, so make sure to go read that article and follow him on Twitter and read his future articles on IndieWire. Huge shout out to them for that. But I wanted to talk to you guys about why I feel like this is so important, because cinematographer Linus Sandgren is working on this movie, and he had worked with Damien Chazelle on La La Land. Huge shout out to my friend Mike Fallon, who was actually in the opening sequence of that movie, and he worked with Damien Chazelle on First Man, which also showcased IMAX 70mm photography for the lunar sequence at the end of the film. But why this is so important is because First Man was shot with IMAX 70mm, but was not released in that format due to, we don't know why it wasn't released that way. It could have been just pure laziness, it could have been the cost, it could have been we weren't a fly on the wall in those meetings at the studio. We don't know what happened. My personal opinion is it's laziness, but that laziness coincides with the cost. It's very expensive. It's the most high resolution format you can get. It's very expensive to shoot that way because the mags are short. So if you mess up, you're gonna have to order more IMAX film, and that's going to cost an arm and a leg for the studio. So when you shoot on IMAX film, you have to be very prepared in your pre-production to make sure your outcome is perfect. I was so excited when I heard First Man was going to have those kind of sequences, because I was like, first of all, if you've been to a museum and watched an IMAX documentary about space, whether it has to do with the space shuttle, the space station, or planets, or whatever have you, it's an amazing experience, because it's like you take the screen away, you're looking into a window, and it's so immersive. Filmmakers like me and film enthusiasts like me who have listened for me for a while, follow me on Twitter, whoever you are, I'm sure agree that IMAX is such an amazing format when done correctly in IMAX 70mm. And I love IMAX Digital. I mean, Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame coming out, super stoked, is going to be, it was completely shot in the IMAX Digital format, and I love that. That's such a great format to shoot in as well. It's cost efficient, and then you get to shoot the whole movies in those formats, and the entire movie's in that format, and it's such a monumental achievement that I cannot wait to experience in IMAX theaters. But we're talking about IMAX 70mm film, the film format that inspires me the most from IMAX, that Nolan inspires the world with. Now you have directors like J.J. Abrams, who used the format in Star Trek Into Darkness and Star Wars The Force Awakens. Then you have Brad Bird, who used it in Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. And then you have, filmmakers like Cary Fukunaga, who's now using it for Bond 25. And Bond is one of my favorite franchises of all time, and I cannot wait to see this in format. But the reason I'm making this video is because there's something important I want to address, and it has to do with the First Man issue. First Man was shot in that format. Arguably, the best scene in the entire movie was shot in that format, and we didn't get to see the way it was intended to be seen because most likely monetary costs. Now, it's Damien Chazelle. He's an Oscar winner, and it's crazy to think that his productions have been Oscar winning, and it's crazy to me that they wouldn't trust him enough to release that. Maybe it's not trust. Again, maybe it could be as simple as monetary gain, but it's still insane that, to me at least, it's so saddening that you invest so much money in shooting in that format. You could have easily shot IMAX Digital like the Russos did for Avengers Endgame and Avengers Infinity War, and look, they shot the whole movies that way. The entire both movies, they shot the entire movies in that format, and it's going to be amazing. But it just saddens me that the studio invested so much money with IMAX to shoot IMAX 70mm stock footage, and we didn't get to see it. And part of my reasoning is if you know me and follow me for a while, you know that I consult at a real IMAX 70mm film theater. It's my home. and it's very important to me. And I've expressed on Twitter how I've seen, particularly these days, only Nolan's movies getting delivered on IMAX 70mm film to the theater, and like Star Wars and stuff like that were actually discarded, even though they were meant to be seen in that format. And this is why I feel Bond, as if you click the video, it's in the title. This is why I feel like Bond 25 getting released in IMAX 70mm is so important, is because, first of all, with all the instant access we have to streaming movies and Blu-ray and 4K and all this amazing stuff, and I've explained before how I love technology and storytelling and how I love blending it together to make movies. I love making movies that coincide with both, but I am a huge advocate of celluloid film. Call me old-fashioned, but I think it's the best image capture. It's literally an image capture, and you can't, unless you burn it, you can't delete it. It's forever there. Even takes that are discarded will always be there, because it's like a painting to me. Some people like their art to be paintings. My art is actual celluloid film. That's why I collect it. That's why I have so many IMAX film prints and 35mm film prints. Not only can I screen them, but it's an amazing format to you can just pick up a frame and just look at it like, wow, that was shot. That it's a moment in time that's frozen on a frame, and it's beautiful. And Cary Fukunaga, who is directing Bond 25, which I'm a huge fan of, as well are a lot of other people, is a huge advocate of celluloid film as well. And I'm hoping, and I'm going to keep pushing it. I hope you guys join me into pushing it and getting Bond 25 released in IMAX 70mm film theaters, because, let's face it, our community as filmmakers and film fans are loud. We have our say, and studios listen to that, and it's fantastic. I love when studios get involved with the up-and-coming filmmakers and artists that love this industry and love movies and love movie making, and inject some of their opinions into their motion pictures, and I love that. But also on the flip side, the money talks, right? The money talks from the average cinemagoer and the average entertainment consumer, and it shows money talks, right? That's the old saying. And when you have people constantly grabbing movies off the internet, streaming, download, Blu-ray, 4K, Amazon, iTunes, all of that jazz, it speaks, and studios see that, and they're like, well, look how big Netflix is getting. And I love Netflix content, don't get me wrong. That's a totally different topic, but I love the Netflix content. I love to get movies that are so incredibly original and with a unique voice on there, but I think it's very important to preserve cinema experience, because that's it. I'm not going to go and say it's a dying art form yet, because a lot of us go to the big blockbuster movies, but I've seen in the past couple of years that the movies that people usually won't get to see don't get the light of day in the theater, and are taken away really quickly because people just want to watch those at their disposal at home. So it's sad. So what I'm hoping is when Bond 25 gets released in theaters worldwide, they do something similar to what Brad Bird did with Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, which is amazing, which a week before it opened wide, they released the movie on IMAX 70mm film theaters only, so word of mouth can spread about how amazing this format is, and then when the movie opens wide, people will still say, you gotta see that in that format. And if you don't, it's still available in your standard Dolby and standard theaters. But if word of mouth gets out that this experience is completely immersive and is such a new way of experiencing movies from people that have never been to a real IMAX experience before, it's a way to get people back in the theater and getting word of mouth. And not only does the word of mouth do great for Bond 25, but it lets other studios know, like, wow, people love this format. People love going to the theater. And we don't have to always do gimmicky actions to get people in the theater. Just invest money into something that's so beautiful and people will appreciate. I've always said it. I have opinions in my movies that I make, my indie films, and the projects I'm part of. There's a lot of people that don't agree with the stories I tell, and there's a lot of people that don't. There's a lot of people that do agree. It's a divisive medium. Movies are divisive, and that's why it's beautiful. You get to have all these amazing conversations with people about why some people like a certain movie and why some people don't like a certain movie or a format or, you know, a device, what have you. It's all divisive and amazing. But the monetary results speak louder than words for the studios, and when studios see that Bond 25 succeeds gigantically in IMAX film theaters, they'll maybe say, like, look, not every movie is suited for IMAX, but if they have a project and a filmmaker comes to them and says, like, I want to shoot that in IMAX 70mm film because I have a pitch and certain scenes in my story will really benefit from this format and take the audience into an exhilarating, immersive experience. And when you have studios seeing how many audience members actually love this format and have embraced it, they'll be more easy to, you know, say, okay, let's do it. Some movies might work and some movies might not. That's just the curse of our industry, right? Some movies work and some don't. And you never know the outcome until the movie's out in the audience and they know what they got from it, and they'll tell you based on box office and reviews and now with the internet what they thought. But I think it's important to save the theatrical experience, especially IMAX 70mm film. I'm going to push this as much as I can, and I hope you guys will join me. Please, let's urge the studio and everybody to release Bond 25 the way it was meant to be seen on IMAX 70mm film and IMAX 70mm film theaters. Join me. Let's make this happen. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at I'm a Film Editor, and I'll catch you guys next time.